channel.
Good morning from Richmond, Texas. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, and it's phase 2 of Hurricane Harvey. We had the coastal impacts, the major damage in Rockport, Port Aransas passed those areas. And now, as we had suspected, a significant, life-threatening, catastrophic rainfall event here in Houston. Some areas have already had over 18, 20 inches of rain. We could see totals of 35, maybe 40 inches of rain. Now, we're about 30 miles from downtown Houston, and we're in one of these bands. I'll throw up the radar. You can see how it's coming up right over. So it's nonstop rain. Picking up now as we get the little bubbles on top of the flooding. I'm just going to wander across the street, just show you how deep it is. But I also want to show you how the water's flowing down this way past this Episcopal church. It's all flowing down towards this field over here. And in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to go over there under those trees, and you'll be able to see what we have. We have some impromptu waterfalls. I posted the video on Twitter. I mean, it's pretty amazing how much water is flowing from this intersection down into that field and then all the way out towards the Brazos River. Again, the Brazos River is coming up very, very quickly, expected to be a major flood stage later tonight, and will approach the all-time record crest, which was set just back last June. So we're at about 24 feet now, and it's forecast to go up 30 more feet, because all this water flowing into the city of Houston ends up in the Brazos. So now it's really dumping again. The one thing we don't have to worry about so much today, at least unless we get in one of these cells, there's no wind. This is pretty much dead calm. The rain is coming down vertically. It's now blowing horizontally like we dealt with Port Lavaca and the landfall of Hurricane Harvey. So a lot of rain out here. This rainfall rate at least an inch an hour. Some of these areas, as I mentioned, have had over 18 inches measured by rain gauges, and this is going to last for the next couple of days. Although we're starting to see some of the rain pull out of Metro Houston and gravitate towards the Piney Woods, Beaumont, Port Arthur. And again, if you live in eastern Louisiana, Shreveport, all the way back towards the Gulf Coast, Cameron Parish, those areas, you're going to have some significant issues and a lot of rain. Now we go back to the studio in Atlanta for the latest update here and get some of the updates on the warnings. By the way, flash flood emergency for most of Metro Houston, including here in Fort Bend County. That one goes until 10:45 a.m. We'll see if they extend it. Let's go back to Dr. Erica Navarro in Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, continuing coverage. Hurricane Harvey, we had the coastal impact, significant damage, at least one fatality in Rockport, Texas. And now it's all about the inland flooding. Tremendous amounts of rainfall in Metro Houston. Some spots have already picked up over 20 inches of rain. We could see numbers 35 to 40 inches because Harvey is not moving anywhere. This is one of the scenes we found. This is Richmond, Texas. We're about 30 miles west of downtown Houston in Fort Bend County, where they've just announced a voluntary evacuation for those of you who live near the Brazos River and the San Bernard River. Those two rivers, the Brazos is going to come up another 30 feet. That's forecast between now and tomorrow evening, and approach the record crest from June 2nd of 2016. So if you were impacted in 2016, you're going to be impacted today, tonight, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So make those preparations now. I want to show you how fast the water is flowing. This is why we say turn around, don't drown, because you don't know how deep is that water. You don't know. This is normally a park. You throw the sticks out there, see how fast they go downstream. So another example, the power of water. This would easily sweep away a car downstream, and you could lose your life. The rain has eased off a little bit. Let's walk back up to the intersection, give you an idea of how it's flooded out. This is basically flash flooding, but it's been raining for so hard for so long with the training that it just doesn't go away very quickly. Once the rain stops, we'll see the water back off. It has backed off a little bit just in the past 10 minutes. The other issue, when we have landfalling tropical systems, are tornadoes. So we had more than several touchdowns yesterday, causing damage in Metro Houston. We've got more tornado warnings this morning. Let's go back to the lab. Dr. Erica Navarro with the latest on the tornado situation here in the upper Texas Gulf Coast.
Yeah, in the Houston area. Well, we're going to go ahead and take it back to the field with meteorologist Mike Seidel. He is live again in Houston. Mike, and we're seeing those water levels come up and the rain starting to begin again. What are you seeing now down where you are in Houston?
Oh, once again, we're back into some very heavy rainfall. I just looked at the radar, and it's this band that's been over the area for hours. It's coming right out of the Gulf of Mexico. This air mass is super saturated, and Harvey is squeezing basically every available drop out of the atmosphere, and that's why we're getting these prolific rainfall totals. And the other reason is Harvey's not moving. Typically, tropical systems come in, they go out, or they go out to sea, and by this time, I mean, Harvey made landfall, 10 o'clock Central Time, night before last. Typically today, the sun would be out. But that's not the case, because right now, Harvey's only moving at about a mile an hour or so. I mean, I can walk faster than that, so these bands set up and stay over primarily the same areas, although we've seen a little bit of a movement of that main band over Houston shifting a little bit to the east. But where we are, if you look at the radar, we're on the southwest side of Houston, out in Richmond, not far from Sugarland, about 30 miles south-southwest. And this is what's coming down. And look at the intersection underwater. And we just showed you the waterfalls created by the drains and all the water going into the park over towards the Brazos River. Somebody else is now around Houston. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams is driving. No telling where she is. I hope you're on a road that's safe, Stephanie. Tell us where you are, what you've seen so far driving around the city.
This neighborhood. Mike Seidel is just a little bit down to the southwest of me in Richmond along the Brazos River, and I know that water is rising just as fast. Mike?
It is, Ron Blom. In fact, the gauge forecast to go up about another 30 feet between now and tomorrow evening. That would take it from the action stage of 24 and change now up to about 54, 55 feet. Now, that's just below the all-time record crest, which was set just last June of 2016. So if you were impacted by that crest 14 months ago, you will be impacted later tonight and tomorrow. That's why here in Fort Bend County, they've ordered or asked for a voluntary evacuation, I should say, of those of you near the Brazos River and also the San Bernard River. So those two rivers are coming up rapidly. All this water has to flow somewhere. So do those preparations now. I suspect, based on that river gauge forecast from NOAA, that there will be mandatory evacuations coming up at some point. Out here, the rain has, well, I say it's backed off a little bit. We're not getting the frog-strangling downpours, but it's still very, very flooded out here in this intersection. It's all rolling across the street and down through the park, and then it ends up in the river across the street on that corner. We'll go back over there in the next half an hour or so and show you the waterfall effect. Basically, this is like a stationary waterfall in Houston. It's really mind-boggling how much rain has fallen already and how much more is on the way. We thought we couldn't see another Allison, but here we go. Again, some spots now the National Weather Service is saying could approach 50 inches of rain. You're talking about a year's worth of rain in about 4 or 5 days. That's incredible. We're talking about more weather extremes, and this is one of those things. We're just squeezing out every drop of moisture in the atmosphere. And again, the whole issue here is we have no steering flow. There's really no wind aloft to move this system out. It's now down to a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. Probably by 5 o'clock, it'll be a depression. But again, as we tell you, the rainfall totals are inversely proportional to the speed. If you cut that speed in half, you double the rainfall. So that's what's going on in this case. Let's go back to the lab. Erica Navarro, our expert, with more on the rainfall and the latest. I haven't heard any new tornado warnings for this system.
No, is in as well. All right, we're going to go to Mike Seidel. And Mike, I'm right in downtown Houston. Where is your location, and what have you been seeing throughout the morning?
Hey, Stephanie, we're about 30 miles west-southwest of where you are, out on the west side, south of the Loop, and we are in Richmond, Texas. This is a suburb that is prone to flooding, and we've seen this today because they're near the Brazos River. And the Brazos right now about 25 feet, going up very quickly, expected to top at about 54. So it's going to go up about another 30 feet between now and Monday night, and that's going to cause large-scale flooding to residences. Let's bring in Lowell Nunez. He's a lieutenant with the Richmond Police Department. And Lieutenant, we got word recently that they have now asked for a voluntary evacuation of those areas along the Brazos and San Bernard rivers. What are you guys and gals planning to do in the short term, assuming you were here for the big flood June 2nd of 2016?
That's correct. And obviously the river Right now the prediction is 54.9 feet, which last year our record was 54.7. So it is predicted to go above record levels, and our mayor has issued a mandatory evacuation for the flood-prone areas that were evacuated last year. And, of course, monitoring the river, we will look into expanding those evacuations as well.
Oh, there's an update, a mandatory evacuation. Look back to June 2nd of last year and what you went through. Did people heed the evacuation orders? Did you have a number of rescues? How did it turn out?
You know, that's why we put it out early. Obviously, people noticed that the river's at 25 feet, and we issue the evacuation orders early to get people out, because should they not get out, we cannot guarantee first respond rescue. And that is our number one concern, is the safety of our citizens, and we want to be able to help as many as we can. And should they choose not to adhere to the evacuation order, it creates a problem not only for them, but for us as well, as far as first responders.
Okay, Lowell Nunez, who is a lieutenant with the Richmond Police Department. Thanks for the update there on now a mandatory evacuation in the flood-prone areas along the Brazos River. We are going to be joined by the Richmond mayor here shortly. He'll have more on that. But if you think about how you have turnover in areas, you know, if you haven't had a hurricane in 30 or 40 years, a lot of people come in. But you're looking at this situation along the Brazos here in Richmond. They went through a record-setting crest just 14 months ago. So they have a very clear idea. They've been through it. They know if they didn't evacuate, they probably should have. So hopefully that'll get everybody out ahead of harm's way, because this river is going up very fast. And we will talk to the mayor of Richmond very shortly. Meanwhile, the rain has backed off a little bit, and as the case with flash flooding, the water has gone down somewhat. We're getting a little vortex here, a little cyclonic vortex over the drain, but across the street, the drains are rushing across the park. And there's a guy that does power washing. I think he's going to be slow for the next few days because of all the rainfall. Again, the flash flood emergency continuing, I believe, until 10:45. We're getting close to that. We'll see if they reissue it. But on the radar, you can see that the solid band that was over us since before sunrise has moved a little bit to the east. So now we're getting into somewhat of a much lighter rainfall rate, and that'll let this water back off. But remember, all this has to drain into these tributaries like the Brazos and San Bernard rivers, and then it has to run downstream towards the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the progress we're seeing here, is that we're at 25 on the Brazos, up to 54 tomorrow night, and then back down through Tuesday and Wednesday. Again, cars going through the water. We'll keep you updated, continuing coverage on part 2 of Hurricane Harvey, now a tropical storm, but a catastrophic and life-threatening situation continuing here in the Houston area. Water rescues continuing, and we could see as much as 50 inches of rain before this is over with.